3 bone-chilling true hidden camera horror stories that will haunt you forever. The shadows danced in the flickering light of the old house, where secrets seeped through the walls like ghosts. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a whisper of something sinister. 3 chilling true stories were waiting to unfold, each more terrifying than the last. As the clock struck midnight, the air thickened with tension and dread, begging the question, what truly lurks in the corners of our homes when we aren't watching? It all began with the unsuspecting family, who found an extra camera hidden behind the living room wall. This wasn't just any camera, it had been recording their every move for months without their knowledge. The footage revealed countless nights of quiet, innocent moments, laughing, crying, and birthdays. But then came the night that changed everything. They noticed someone had been in the house, someone who wasn't supposed to be there. An eerie reflection in the screen, a dark figure lurking just out of sight, sent shivers down everyone's spine. The revelation turned their lives upside down. The walls that kept them safe were now a prison of their own consent. As the tale continued, the scene shifted to a college dorm room, where a group of friends collided headfirst with a reality that made their hair stand on end. They set up a hidden camera for fun, capturing their silly antics. But soon, they discovered something more sinister, another camera, one that wasn't theirs, silently recording them from above. Panic surged through their veins as they confronted each other. Was someone watching them? Their laughter quickly morphed into confusion, fear gnawing at their hearts. The whispers grew louder, with one frantic voice breaking the silence. What if we're not alone? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, a chilling final story emerged from a suburban neighborhood street, where a young couple thought they were filming their new life's journey. They set up a camera in their front yard to capture moments of love and joy. But what they got was far from delightful. Flickering images revealed disturbances each time they left the house. Objects in their living room moved on their own, doors slamming shut, and faint giggling echoed through the air. Each recorded moment, intended to capture happiness, became a sinister reminder of disturbances they'd never invited in. They were being watched, but by who? And why? An unsettling question hung in the air, weighing heavily. Could these cameras be mere instruments of observation, or were they conduits for something far more malevolent? The tension crackled as darkness seeped into their lives, leaving one last haunting question. When you invite that lens into your life, what darkness might you inadvertently summon in return? The house stood quietly as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawn. Inside, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Ever since their unsettling discovery of that hidden camera in their living room wall, every creak seemed to match the rhythm of her heartbeat. She flipped through the footage she had saved, each frame revealing stranger and more disturbing events, items shifting, whispers of laughter echoing in the dark. It felt like someone had turned their home into a twisted stage, and the performances were all about their every move. Are you watching this? She asked her husband, Jake, frantically pausing the screen to highlight yet another unexplained occurrence. He leaned in closer, eyes narrowing, but his expression was a mix of denial and dread. It's just a glitch, a shadow playing tricks, he muttered, but Rachel saw the doubt flicker in his gaze. Let us just focus on figuring out a way to remove that camera, he added, his voice strained, but Rachel needed more than to just disregard it. Jake, I just have this feeling it's not just some tech glitch. She could feel a cold sweat creeping down her spine. What if that's not the only camera? What if others are watching us? That thought lingered like an unwelcome guest, gnawing at their peace. They agreed to have a look around the house, determined to find whatever hidden eyes might exist in the woodwork. Every crack and crevice became a potential hiding place for their lurking intruder. As Rachel scoured the attic, rummaging through decades of dust, she stumbled across an old box filled with family trinkets. Among them was a frayed scrapbook resembling a diary, its pages yellowed with age. Curiosity sparked as she flipped through the faded photographs much like hers, each moment captured from a different perspective. But while her family smiled brightly, the children in these photos bore faces twisted in fear, as if they were aware of an unknown horror lurking just beyond the frame. She gasped, a shiver racing through her. "Jake! You have to see this." She called down to him, her voice tense with urgency. He climbed up, his expression shifting from curiosity to unease as he examined the images. "What in the world?" Jake muttered. Then, the sound of footsteps echoed ominously outside the attic door, a slow, deliberate sound that made their blood run cold. Without thinking, they both stepped back instinctively, holding their breath. The footsteps grew louder, then paused. A chill swept through the room, gripping them with a sense of doom. Jake whispered, "What if it's someone else, someone watching us?" Rachel's heart pounded. She never thought their lives would be tangled in this sinister web, but there they stood, trapped in fear, isolated within the walls of a home that felt abruptly foreign. The question loomed heavily, who or what was on the other side? Just then, the attic door creaked open slightly, revealing only darkness. They could make out a figure's silhouette standing at the threshold, backlit by the faintest glow. The atmosphere thickened with dread as whispers slithered through the air, unintelligible yet undeniably ominous. "Who are you?" Rachel called out, her voice quivering. But no reply came, only the creeping sensation of dread tightened around them, and then, a haunting laugh broke the silence, echoing from the shadows. The couple stood frozen at the brink of realization this wasn't a game anymore. They were not alone. They had blindly invited something into their lives that could never be unseen. What awaited them in the dark? Could they uncover the truth before it consumed them entirely? Fear gripped their hearts as they leaned closer to the door, desperate to know who or what was lurking just out of sight, reveling in their terror. A silence fell, thick and suffocating, hanging over the attic like a heavy fog. Rachel gripped the scrapbook tighter, her knuckles turning white. The figure shifted slightly, and just for a second, she thought she could make out a face, pale and stretched, with wide eyes that seemed to glimmer with malice. Jake, resolute but clearly terrified, took a cautious step forward. "We need to know who this is," he declared, his voice shaky but firm. He reached for the dim light switch, but something in the back of Rachel's mind screamed not to. Outside, the wind howled, drowning any sound they made. The attic felt as if it were twisting, each corner growing darker, more threatening. "Jake, wait!" Rachel rasped, but it was too late. He flipped the switch, and the fluorescent bulb flickered to life, casting harsh light all around. The silhouette, once a mystery, was now revealed, a small boy standing there, tears streaking his dirt-smudged face, his eyes wide and vacant. "Help me, please," he whimpered, barely a whisper. His voice carried an unsettling innocence that resonated through Rachel's bones. But there was something wrong about the way he was standing there motionless, almost as if he wasn't entirely real. "What do you want?" Jake asked, taking a step back, fear stamping his features. Rachel felt her heart race, some primal instinct urging her to flee. But something in the boy's demeanor pulled her in. "I found it!" he cried suddenly, his gaze darting away from them, focusing on the box next to Rachel. "The bad thing. It watches us, it hurts us." Rachel felt dizzy, her head spinning as if she were trapped in a nightmare. "What do you mean?" she urged, her voice trembling. The boy simply pointed, fingers trembling with fright, toward the scrapbook. Just as Jake took a step closer to the boy, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew electric, buzzing sharply with a sense of foreboding. "Do you hear that?" Jake said, suddenly on edge. Rachel nodded slowly, heart thumping wildly. Faint whispers floated through the attic. They were disembodied yet intimately close, full of overlapping laughter and cries. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she turned to look behind her. What should have been empty space felt like it housed a weighty presence, coiling around them like a tight grip, but then, as quickly as it began, the sound stopped. The silence swelled, cruel and mocking. "Please. You have to get away," the boy pleaded, his eyes rolling with terror, glancing at the now closed door. "They're coming for you." "Who is coming?" Rachel pressed on, her mind racing as the fear began to spiral. The boy's lips parted in a silent scream, and with a sudden, unnatural jerk, he lunged forward and vanished as if he never existed at all. Jake stumbled back, nearly knocking over the box. "No!" Rachel exclaimed, despair washing over her. "Jake, we have to get out of here." But just as they turned to leave, the attic door slammed shut with a resounding crash. It echoed, deep and hollow, as if the house itself had swallowed the sound, adding a malevolent heartbeat to their grave predicament. Staring into the darkness beyond, they heard a sinister chuckle ripple through the air, closer, now a sound thick with glee. It mocked their fear, reveling in the horror of uncertainty. "Are they watching us?" Rachel whispered, her voice barely above a breath as reality jolted around her. Emerging from the shadows, a figure slid forward, cloaked in black, wearing a smile that sent ice dripping through her veins. The moment had arrived, but who would pay the price? As the whispers returned, growing louder in their frenzy, Rachel and Jake exchanged horrified glances. They knew now the game had switched, and the rules had changed. What sinister fate awaited them? Would they find a way out or fall prey to the unseen eyes that had fixated on their every move? Rachel pressed against the wall, desperately searching for an escape from the figure advancing toward them. The shadows twisted around it, enhancing its ominous presence. "Jake!" She gasped, her throat tight with panic. Jake's eyes were fixed on the figure, his mouth opening and closing as if he wanted to speak but the words wouldn't come. The figure's smile widened, an unsettling curve that seemed to stretch impossibly across its face. "Welcome to your new game," it purred, voice smooth like silk yet laced with a predatory hunger. "Get back!" Jake shouted, taking a step forward with all the bravado he could muster. The air was heavy, suffocating him, but he wouldn't back down. "Game?" Rachel echoed, her heart racing. "What do you mean?" "Your lives are the prize," the figure said, tilting its head as though it found their fear amusing. "And the watchers, oh, they're eager. Very eager." Rachel's pulse hammered in her ears. "What are you talking about?" She felt the walls closing in, the attic now feeling like a cage. Each breath felt more strained than the last. Every secret, every emotion, every fear. It continued, stepping closer, its eyes now pinpricks of light gleaming in the darkness. "They'll watch you suffer and they'll feast on your despair." The whispers revived, a cacophony of distorted voices swirling in her mind, each chuckle dripping with venomous joy at her turmoil. Rachel's hands trembled at the thought, and she instinctively reached for the scrapbook, hoping for solace in its pages. "Don't," Jake warned, but the boy's words echoed in her mind. "The bad thing. It watches us in a flash," the whispers intensified, growing louder, wrapping around them like vines. The attic trembled as something unseen shifted within the shadows, and the temperature plummeted, forming frosty clouds of breath in front of them. "What do you need?" Rachel shouted into the dark void, desperation leaving her voice raw and quivering. "Who are you?" A cruel laugh filled the space, reverberating off the walls. "So many questions, but let's start with one. What are you willing to sacrifice to escape?" Rachel swallowed, her throat dry as sandpaper. "I'll do anything." "Anything?" It echoed, taunting her with each syllable, as if it could taste the fear. Then the game begins. The floor beneath them vibrated uncontrollably, rattling the very bones of the house. A whirlwind of anger and despair mixed with the laughter, becoming a sinister anthem marking the initiation of their twisted fate. "What are you doing?" Jake yelled, catching Rachel's wrist as the chaos escalated. "We need to find a way out." His words snapped her back. "The door." "We have to," but a massive force threw them apart, slamming Rachel against the wall. Pain shot through her body, tightening her chest. She gasped for air as shadows enveloped her like a suffocating blanket. "You must choose, Rachel," the figure whispered close to her ear, chilling her bones. "One life for another." Terror coursed through her veins as she glanced at Jake, panic etched across his face. "No. You can't. You can't make me choose." The figure's laughter erupted again, swirling the shadows, as if feeding on their fear. "Oh, but it's not just any choice, it's the only way to escape your doom. One must pay the price." Rachel looked at Jake, desperation filling her chest while the weight of dread crushed around her skull. They were trapped in a sickening maze of choices and consequences, where every option led to darkness. "Rachel." Jake's voice cracked under the strain. "We have to get out. Why can't we just leave?" She shouted, tears of fear blurring her vision. "Because the door is locked, and it won't open for anyone who stands in its way." She turned back toward the figure. "What is it you want? What do I have to give?" The laughter faded, leaving a lingering echo of chilling silence. "Only what is most precious to you." Rachel felt her heart slam against her ribs, realizing with growing horror what the figure truly meant. What would she sacrifice to save Jake? The weight of the decision threatened to drown her as the whispers began to swell again. Feeding on the turmoil between them, the attic became a crucible for their worst fears, and Rachel was left with the most agonizing question yet: how far would she go to save someone she loved? Just as she reached a fever pitch of understanding, a blinding flash exploded before her eyes, cutting off all clarity. What would she choose? Would the shadows finally claim them, or would love push her beyond the edge of despair? As the blinding flash faded, the attic around Rachel and Jake warped and twisted like a mirage, and the figure melted back into the shadows, leaving behind a chilling silence. Rachel blinked, struggling to gather her senses, her heart racing like a wild drum in her chest. "Are you okay?" Jake's voice broke through the haze, filled with concern. He reached out, fingers brushing her arm, and that touch grounded her amidst the chaos. I think so," Rachel stammered, shivering. But even as she spoke, the echoes of the figure's words punched at her gut. "One life for another." What just happened? Jake asked, scanning the darkness around them, his voice trembling, betraying a vulnerability he tried to hide. "Where did it go? Does it matter?" She whispered, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. "It said we have to choose to sacrifice." Jake's expression shifted, a mix of defiance and fear swirling in his eyes. "We can't let it win. We need a plan." The attic felt impossibly cold. Rachel could feel the walls creeping closer, a sickening squeeze around her lungs. "What kind of plan, Jake?" She pressed, her voice shaking. "Would you really sacrifice someone just to escape?" He hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossed his face. "It's a choice, Rachel. We might not have a choice. It wants us to despair. We can't give it that power. Can't you see?" Rachel replied, desperation gripping her as shadows flickered on the edges of her vision. "It'll use our fears against us. It knows us, our secrets. You might be what it wants from me." "No." Jake barked, stepping closer, the intensity in his eyes building. "I won't let it come between us like that. We can find another way." "Another way?" Rachel's heart sank. She didn't even know what that meant. The figure had pinned her to a corner, playing with her emotions like a puppet master. "What do we do when it comes back?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. That was when the whispers returned, more potent than before, swirling around them like a storm. They grew louder, a chaotic chorus of mocking laughter and sinister whispers that dug into her soul. And then, as if summoned by the fear that thickened the air, the figure emerged again from the shadows. "Your time's running out," it crooned, eyes shimmering with a dark hunger. "What will be your choice, dear Rachel? Jake's life or your own escape?" Before Rachel could respond, the air trembled with an invasive chill that prickled her skin. "You only have minutes before the watchers grow bored. Choose wisely. Love is a double-edged sword, after all." Rachel's breath caught, panic exploding in her chest. I can't choose," she shouted, clutching Jake's arm like a lifebuoy. They were watching, waiting. The weight of their impending doom pressed on her. "Please," Jake murmured, his voice strained, his eyes full of pleading. "Don't let it." A loud bang echoed from behind them, shaking the attic floorboards. The door, once thought impenetrable, rattled violently. Something wanted in, urging her to make a choice. To decide between love and life, a fate far worse than despair. "Rachel." The urgency in Jake's voice snapped her back. "We can't let it take what we hold dear. What if we—" But the whispers grew into a deafening crescendo, drowning his words. They twisted around her mind, twisting again, revealing the worst parts of herself, the darkest fears that lurked just out of sight. "Choose." The figure roared, its voice cracking like thunder, shaking the foundation of the attic. In that moment, everything blurred into chaos, the line between reality and nightmare dissolving into a haunting symphony of horror. The world around her spun, and her heart raced as she realized she had only minutes before it all fell apart. What would she pick? Seconds ticked away as the shadows gathered, and the weight of a choice loomed over her like a storm cloud ready to burst. As the whispers reached a fevered pitch and the walls closed in, Rachel's pulse quickened. Would she let love guide her or allow fear to dictate her fate? The dark had come for them both, and Rachel was left with the shattering question: if she could save only one, who would she let go? A flicker of movement caught her eye, and panic surged anew. She had to decide. Now. Rachel's breath came in desperate gasps as she fought to quell the panic rising within her. The door behind them shuddered violently, rattling in its frame, the ominous weight of something beyond it pressing insistently. Time was slipping away, each second echoing in her ears like a drumroll of misfortunes yet to come. "Rachel, listen." Jake's voice jolted her from her spiraling thoughts. He took her shoulders firmly, his eyes searching hers with unwavering determination. "You have to focus. If it's a choice, what is something we can use against it? Our love? Something it fears?" A shard of clarity rang in her mind. Fear. What if their love was the very weapon the figure sought to destroy? But what if using it makes it stronger? Rachel whispered hoarsely, doubt creeping in like the shadows around them. The figure's laughter echoed in her ears, taunting and relentless. "Heed my call or face the consequences," it retorted, a sinister glee dancing in its voice, wrapping around them like a noose. A flash of movement caught her eye again, and she swiveled towards the door, feeling a chill that cut deep into her bones. The whispers morphed into an insidious hum of encouragement, urging her to act, promising safety for Jake if she made the right choice. "There has to be a way." Jake's grip tightened. "We can't give up. It wants us to panic." His voice steadied her, an anchor in the storm of confusion. But doubt gnawed at her resolve. What if giving in to fear only fed their captor's wicked game? "Jake," her voice trembled, "what if it's lying? What if saving you means letting go of myself?" He closed his eyes briefly, and she could see the internal battle etched on his face. She spoke again, desperation bubbling in her throat. "I can't lose you. I can't do it. Rachel, I would sacrifice myself for you." He insisted, the fervor of his love clashing with the chilling atmosphere encasing them. "You're not alone in this. It will twist the truth to tear us apart. You've got to be strong. Choose." The figure demanded, anger lacing its tone. "One life for another. Make it quick." The air grew tense, like a bowstring pulled too tight, and she dreaded what was yet to come. As panic rose again, a thought pierced through the chaos. Their fears, their secrets, they were powerful, but only if released into the world. If we can expose its lies, Rachel whispered, we might stand a chance. I love you, Jake murmured, the sincerity of his voice crumbling her defenses. She could feel the weight of that love wrapping around her like a protective shroud, allowing her to find strength within. We can do this together. The whispers ripped through the attic, yelling, screaming, demanding she choose. But instead of a fearful retreat, Rachel stepped forward. Both of us. If we stand united and expose its lies, maybe we will find a way. It roared, the figure S form dissipating in a rush of shadowy clouds, fury flooding the edges of its presence. Foolish mortals. You think you can evade my command? I will make you pay for your insolence. Rachel seized Jake's hand, a defiant smile breaking through her tears. Let us show it we're stronger together. But just as hope ignited within her, the attic trembled violently, the shadows surging around them like a tidal wave. The door splintered open, an inconceivable force appearing in the doorway, a hideous silhouette, cloaked and ominous, looming in anticipation. Rachel's heart leaped into her throat. What now? The figure hadn't retreated, it had called for backup. What horrifying truth had they just unleashed? Stay close. She shouted, bracing for whatever evil awaited. The abyss loomed wider, revealing a malevolent smile hidden within the darkness. It whispered again, softer now, silkiness laced with malice. Choose or your bond will split, and only pain will remain. Rachel's heartbeat thundered in her ears. In that moment of danger, in the swirling chaos, they faced a new reality, one that threatened to upend everything. What had they awakened, and how much would it demand before they could reclaim their lives? The shadows pulsed as the figure stepped fully into the attic, its form stretching and twisting, creating an unsettling dance of darkness that engulfed the corners of the room. Rachel felt her breath hitch, the air thick with foreboding. There was no mistaking it now, they ignited something far more sinister than they had anticipated. Look at what you've done. The figure hissed, its voice an eerie blend of countless whispers and the quiet rustling of leaves in a windless night. You've awakened the forgotten. The spirits of anguish and despair now feast upon your delusions. Rachel clung to Jake's hand, desperation squeezing her heart like a vice. We did this together, she whispered fiercely, terror warping within her. And we can face it together. The newly arrived figure's eyes glinted, reflecting a terrifying hunger. Together you are strong, but apart, you are weak. You will face your fears, or I will tear you apart. Before she could fully process the threat, the shadows erupted. Tendrils reached out towards them, brushing against their skin, cold and clammy, electrifying fear racing through her veins. The attic walls pulsed and throbbed as if the very house was alive, as if it were swallowing their screams. Don't let go. Jake shouted over the fray, pulling her closer. Rachel could hardly think. Each heartbeat drummed up visions of betrayal and loss clawing at her mind. The looming figure's sinister laughter echoed, wrapping around them like a blanket of dread. You must commit to your choice. Only one of you will walk away tonight. Rachel could feel the weight of inevitability press against her chest. What do you want? She cried, voice cracking. What do you gain from this? A simple game, it replied, slowly drawing closer. I offer choice, and you offer me your souls. What a dance we will have. Jake's expression shifted, fear warping into a fierce resolve. We won't give in to you. We are not afraid. Then let me show you what real fear looks like. Suddenly, the shadows split, revealing a mosaic of haunting memories, Rachel's downs, Jake's fears, their darkest secrets laid bare before them in vivid detail. Each personal torment shimmered in grotesque relays, threatening to swallow them whole. Rachel gasped, recoiling. No. This is a trap. Is it? The figure taunted, continuing to weave the dark tapestry of their lives. Face your fears or be stripped of love itself. She squeezed her eyes shut, feeling an icy touch crawling up her spine. Show us then. Rachel shouted, compelled by anger. If we're going to fight, let us face it all. Together. The figure paused, surprise filtering through the shadows. Do you truly think your bond can withstand my darkness? We can break your curse. Jake yelled, his voice radiating determination. Suddenly, the darkness shifted again, now swirling with a chaotic intensity. The figures of their fears took shape and lunged at them, claws extended, each representing a fragment of their past, a lost opportunity, a dashed dream, and mistakes they wished to forget. Run! Rachel screamed, moving with instinct as she pulled Jake along. The shadows pursued them, morphing, shifting, fueled by every soul-wrenching moment they had ever faced. Corridors. Jake shouted as they stumbled forward, desperately seeking any escape. The entrance loomed ahead, but it pulsed like a heartbeat, the doorway flickering in and out of existence, reality blurring around them. Just as hope crested, everything around them warped, the shadows gleefully pulling Rachel back and pulling Jake in the opposite direction. Rachel! His voice was a desperate gasp, and she felt the connections pulling, an invisible tether of fear trying to tear them apart. No! Don't let go! She screamed, but the shadows tightened their grip on her, tearing at her very essence. With heart-wrenching agony, Rachel realized, she needed to confront her deepest fears or lose everything. Together. She yelled, reaching for Jake in the thick darkness. We have to break this. We can't let it win. But as Jake's fingers brushed against hers, the shadows pulled him back, drawing him into a swirling abyss, a gaping mouth of darkness threatening to swallow him whole. The figure leaned in close, its chilling breath washing over her. Choose. Rachel's heartbeat drummed against her ribcage as she felt Jake slip through her fingers. No. Choose what? She realized now it was never about escaping, it was about facing the demons that had haunted them all along. The darkness twisted again, demanding her choice, breathing life into her deepest fears. A single question echoed in her mind: would she sacrifice herself to save Jake? Time stalled, and she felt the weight of everything colliding: love, loss, courage, and terror. What would she choose? The shadows awaited her answer, and the room seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. But even in the abyss, a flicker of hope ignited. Rachel took a shaky breath. I refuse. But what horror awaited them if she dared confront the darkness? What would she lose and what could she gain? The darkness seemed to pulse around Rachel, a living entity hungry for the sacrifice it craved. Shadows converged tighter, blurring her vision, yet the flicker of hope inside her pushed her forward, guiding her toward Jake. Though she felt her strength waning, an inner fire ignited as she bellowed, "Together, Jake. We can do this. Fight." Both their hearts raced like wild animals caught in a snare, and for a moment, the world around them dulled to a dull thrum. All that mattered was this point, this decision. In the swirling chaos, Jake's face shone with determination even as the nightmarish specters clawed at him, their whispers melding into a cacophony of despair. The figure leaned closer still, its shadowy form dripping with malevolence. You cling to delusions. The more you fight, the stronger I become. Is your love truly worth the ultimate sacrifice? Rachel's throat tightened as she struggled against the grasping tendrils wrapping around her. I want to sacrifice him, she spat defiantly, and I want to let you win. In an instant, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows recoiled, startled by Rachel's newfound resolve. The whispers quieted, and the air rippled with something potent. Fear felt fresh, for its power blossomed. Face your truth then, little girl, the figure hissed, contempt oozing through its words. Tell me what haunts you, and I might spare your lives. Rachel's heart raced, the memories flooding her mind. She could feel the anguish pooling in her chest, the winter's chill when her father left, the summer days right after, full of silence and sadness. It was her own childhood grief, long buried, that had somehow chained her soul. You think bringing forth pain will weaken me? She shouted into the shadows. It won tea. Jake shifted beside her, his own fears feeding the darkness, but she felt an urgency coursing through her. Show me, Rachel, he breathed. We can't hide from it. We stand together, remember? Rachel nodded, forcing her gaze forward, past the sinister figure hovering close, eyes glinting with delight. Fine. She screamed, letting the memories rise like a storm. Show us both. Suddenly, the shadows exploded into a swirl of images, ghosts of their past materializing like phantoms in the air. Rachel watched as her old insecurities manifested, her mother's disapproving gaze, a friend's laughter twisting into derision, every moment that had made her question her worth. And interlaced with that was Jake, bound in his own hell, the loss of his younger brother, the day he fell to darkness, vanished in a cruel twist of fate. No! Jake bellowed, recognizing the shadow that clutched at his grief. We beat this together. Together, Rachel echoed, determination igniting in her veins like wildfire. But how? What if this recalibration of pain unleashed monsters stronger than they could fend off? You must confront your past to embrace your future. The figure commanded, extending a clawed hand. Or be consumed. Rachel felt her heart pound with every second, Jake's hand in hers, the comfort of his presence grounding her. We are not just our pain, she shouted, her voice cutting through despair like a knife. We can rewrite our stories. The darkness surged angrily, the shadows swirling, trying to erase their declaration. For a split second, Rachel caught Jake's frightened glance, and she realized the truth. They had to create a new narrative, one outside of fear's grip. They needed to reclaim their memories, reshape their realities. I choose to remember the love. Rachel yelled, and Jake echoed her, a fierce shout cascading through the air, we refuse your grip. As they stood arm in arm, a pulse of light erupted from within them, ripping through the darkness, blasting away the tendrils that surrounded them. But in that moment of triumph, a shadow loomed larger, the figure contorting in rage. You dare challenge the depths of despair? It screeched, the walls of the attic vibrating with fury, and then everything shifted again. The floor beneath them trembled, the very essence of the house protesting against their stand, twisting into forms of chaos. The figure's laughter morphed into a scream, shaking Rachel to the core. Let the final game begin. And as the floor cracked, splitting the attic apart, she couldn't help but wonder, what if this was only beginning? What if hell descended even darker, ready to devour them whole? Would love withstand the final test? Rachel held her breath, and uncertainty gnawed at her heart. The abyss howled back, cold and relentless. What awaited them now? The room shook violently, splintering wood and plaster cracking under the weight of an oppressive dread. The darkness seemed to consume everything, swirling in an angry tempest, dragging Rachel and Jake toward an unseen edge. They teetered, suspended in the looming fear, their hearts pounding like war drums. Hold on! Jake yelled, clenching Rachel's hand tighter. The pulse of light still flickered around them, a fragile shield against the encroaching night that threatened to swallow them whole. They could feel its grasp loosening, but the fight was far from over. As the shadows receded for a moment, a flicker of memory surfaced in Rachel's mind, a cherished moment from her youth, a sunlit backyard, laughter ringing out as she played with friends. It felt so distant yet so vivid. She could almost smell the fresh grass, hear the carefree giggles. Look! She shouted, feeling the light surge as she grasped onto the memory. We have joy, Jake. We have each other. Jake's eyes sparkled with understanding, his own memories rising like beacons of light in the oppressive gloom. The day spent fishing with his brother, carefree moments before the world had turned dark. Yes! He shouted. We can fight this together. The shadows, sensing their renewed strength, howled in defiance. The malevolent figure twisted, its form becoming a whirlpool of despair and rage. You cling to these pathetic memories. It screeched, its voice piercing the air like glass shattering. They will be your downfall. But Rachel and Jake, emboldened by shared courage, shouted in unison, "No." Light burst forth, surrounding them like a protective cocoon. They stumbled backward as the shadows recoiled, screeching as if their very essence was being burned away. Each scream pulled at Rachel's heart, leaving her torn between empathy and resolve. "Look at all the memories you've lost," the figure hissed, weaving between them, drawing closer. "Each flicker of light brings with it another shadow, another piece of pain. Are your hearts strong enough to bear it?" The air thickened with doubt, but Rachel held her breath, forcing the terror down deep. "We're not afraid anymore," she declared. "Each memory, even the painful ones, helps shape us. We won't forget." Then, without warning, the figure lunged, its monstrous form erupting into a mass of swirling darkness, tendrils reaching out like claws to seize them both. Rachel shrieked, nearly losing her grip on Jake, but she steadied herself, focusing on their intertwined palms, the strength of their connection grounding her. "Fight, Rachel. Remember our love." Jake's voice was fierce, cutting through the surging chaos. With every ounce of strength they possessed, they called upon every bright moment, every glimmer of affection they shared. The memories pooled around them, morphing into brilliant lights, illuminating the shadows that encircled them. It was a kaleidoscope of life dancing in late summer nights, laughter shared over steaming cups of coffee, soft whispers in the dark. The malevolent figure shrieked, a raw, animalistic sound that scrapped against their souls. "You think your memories can save you? They will only amplify your suffering." Rachel looked into Jake's eyes, seeing the fear mingled with love. An idea sparked in her mind. "We need to forgive. Let us cast off our burdens." "What?" Jake's voice was laced with confusion and urgency, but there was power in their bond. "Let it go. All the hurt, the loss. We can't let it define us." Rachel screamed, feeling invigorated as she released the chains of the past, wishing to shatter the hurtful echoes that plagued the air around them. Jake's realization sparked like wildfire. "Together. We forgive everything." His voice rang with conviction, igniting their hope anew. As they embraced the idea of forgiveness, the light radiated brighter around them. The shadows shrieked in fury, desperately clawing at the light that now engulfed them. "No! No!" The figure howled, retreating as if burned, but just as victory shimmered on the horizon, a glimmer of darkness crept through the cracks in the floor, seeking to drag them down again. The shadows twisted back, forming a vortex threatening to pull the light apart. "Rachel." Jake's voice cracked with urgency. "We're not done yet. We can't give in." Rachel's chest tightened. Fear clawed at her throat. They were running out of time, and the darkness wouldn't stop until it consumed them. "Who will survive?" a voice whispered in the breaking silence, slithering towards them like a serpent. The distance between victory and despair shrank in that moment, and Rachel felt the churning power of fate closing in around them. Would their strength be enough? In an instant, the floor splintered anew, a crack formulating into something dark and foreboding. What would emerge from the depths below? Would their love withstand the ultimate test, or would the shadows prevail once more? The air in the attic was electric, sparking with the tension of impending doom. The shadows were relentless, thrumming around Rachel and Jake as the figure loomed, dripping with malevolence. Everything built to a terrifying crescendo, a nightmare clawing at the edges of their minds. Rachel gripped Jake's hand tightly, their fingers interlocked like a lifeline. "We can't fight it alone," she gasped, gathering her waning courage. "We have to confront everything. Together." The figure twisted, its form shifting as it snickered in delight. "Together, you believe you can defy me? Face the truth, and I will show you the cost of your union." Then, in an instant, the shadows lunged forward, repelling Rachel and Jake, reversing their bond's strength and driving them apart with a vicious wave. It was as if the attic itself contorted around them, squeezing their bodies, smothering their voices. Jake! Rachel screamed, watching helplessly as he was swept away, the dark tendrils clawing at him relentlessly. Panic unfurled in Rachel's chest like a thunderstorm. No! Jake shouted, fighting against the shadows, desperation etched across his face. Rachel, don't listen to it. In that moment of terrifying clarity, Rachel felt the gravity of their struggle. She needed to confront not only the shadow but her own fears and doubts. Reflexively, she shouted, "You 1T win. We 1T give up." The shadows paused, their monstrous growls halting momentarily. In that stillness, memories flooded Rachel's mind, heartwarming laughter, momentous days, bittersweet losses, but new memories flashed like lightning too. Their first meeting, late-night whispers under the stars, the warmth of their love. The both of them intertwined, stories beautifully woven together amidst the darkness. Forgiveness, Rachel breathed, a thought sparking within her. We need to forgive the pain. Let the past rest. The shadows seemed to ripple in response, shifting as if disturbed by her words. Words 1T save you, the figure hissed, advancing menacingly, but Rachel stood firm. Love needs to heal. We release you from the burdens you've laid upon us. At that moment, Jake squeezed his eyes shut against the encroaching darkness and thought of every moment they shared, the love that forged them, the laughter that lifted them. His voice broke through the shadows, strong and steady, we forgive what holds us back. Together, one bond unbroken. A pulse of light erupted from within them, a beam cutting through the darkness, igniting their connection. The shadows recoiled, as if stung, the figure stammering and pivoting in rage. The attic erupted with brilliant colors, their shared memories exploding into vibrant visions of joy that danced around them, but the figure screamed, "You think you can erase your pain? You can't escape without sacrifice." Shadows surged back, a wave of humid darkness crashing against them. Hold on to the light. Rachel cried as he fought against the pull, each heartbeat pounding with the newfound strength of their love. With a fierce determination, they surged toward the figure, willpower solidified through the memories of every cherished moment. We love. We forgive. You are nothing. They shouted in unison, their voices merging into a glorious chorus reverberating off the walls. The attic trembled under the intensity of the light. The figure shrieked, its form flickering like a candle in a storm. No. What are you? It lashed out, but the warmth of love and forgiveness coursing through Rachel and Jake repelled the darkness, pushing back every thread of shadow. As its body cracked and splintered, Rachel and Jake's united force pressed forward, pulling the remnants of their light around them like armor. We reclaim our lives. They shouted together, their voices melting into one powerful sound. In a final act of desperation, the figure lunged forward, but Rachel stood unwavering, her heart unraveling in defiance. You have no power here. We are not your pawns. The shadows recoiled. An explosion of brilliance engulfed the attic, blinding rays dispersing the darkness and revealing the wooden beams long hidden. The figure screamed as its form twisted and crumbled, erupting into a cascade of shadows sprouting from the walls to the floor, absorbed in the earth below, where it belonged. With one final shriek, all went quiet, the silence settling like a soothing balm. The oppressive weight lifted, dissolving into nothingness as if it had never existed. Rachel and Jake, still standing amidst the remnants of the attic, breathed heavy sighs of relief. The shadows had vanished, but it felt like they carried the warmth of their memories now more than ever. They had faced the darkness and emerged intact. We did it, Jake whispered, his voice a mixture of disbelief and contentment. He turned to Rachel, their eyes meeting, reflecting a warmth that filled the void once created by fear. Together, always, Rachel whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. They felt the burden of their pain lift, replaced by a bright hope for their future. As daylight streamed in through the windows, illuminating the attic with golden light, Rachel and Jake could finally breathe without the suffocating grip of fear. They had fought the darkness and won, claiming their love and forging ahead. Hand in hand, stepping out of the shadows, they entered a world illuminated by light, finally free. This story, like every ending, begs you to reflect on your own power to embrace love amidst challenges. If you felt that heart-racing thrill for Rachel and Jake, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Please smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. Don't forget to flood the comments. Let us hear all your reactions and theories about their journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this thrilling conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to see it. You won't regret diving into the next adventure together.